Welcome to Being at Home with George, and I'm excited to be here. And let's begin by creating the possibility, not the necessity, but the possibility of saying yes to life, embracing whatever comes up, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever it is, generating a hope and making wise choices for the greatest good. And so I'd like to talk about this because following up on what we talked about last week, and I was reflecting and thinking about this idea that home is where the heart is. So to be home is to be heart centered or to be in the heart or to be in touch coming from the heart inside out. And so that's easier in my experience when what we're embracing is pleasant and comfortable and exciting and joy. And of course, there's some people may be feeling that way because maybe the people they were backing up won the election or came into success in one way or the other. But then the other side of that is people that are feeling like they have unavoidable suffering, is tremendous suffering. And so how do we say yes to the unavoidable suffering? And once again, I like to go back to Viktor Frankl when he talked about this idea of ultimate freedom is when there's unavoidable suffering, that when we can seek to understand it and embrace it, accept it, then it ceases to be suffering, when we can find meaning in it. And so one of the things I like to talk about is when we embrace, and let's talk about the unavoidable suffering, we can choose our response in that space of creating space. We have the freedom and power to choose. So how do we create space? To embrace is to create space. It's expanding our capacity to love, but also expanding our capacity to embrace suffering and to move through the suffering where there's joy and there's this ability of not just relief, but expanding so that the heart and thinking about the heart is breaking, it's actually breaking open. And by breaking open, it's creating more space and it's giving us more stress hardiness, what we call strong self-efficacy, belief, resilience. And so that's the way to look at this. So some people may have the tendency to shut down because of the unavoidable suffering. And some people may have the opportunity or the tendency to want to beat down people who are suffering. And when we do that, that's when we're in this illusion of separateness. We're not realizing that it's not to dominate, but to deliberate. And this idea of we have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, but we can do that. And so by getting comfortable being uncomfortable, then we can say yes and instead of either or. And so the idea here is home is where the heart is, and the heart is where we go to get in the flow, but also where we go to be able to say yes to whatever comes up, generate the hope, and find success, or at least make wise choices. And the choice is always about the we, for the greatest good, not just for the individual good. And for me, what helps me to open up my heart is when I can pray and meditate and serve. How can I help others? How can I think about the we? How can I make choices for the greatest good?